if you're still up for it, I'd like to see if we can get this guy, just get this out to the guys. He's absolutely, brother. So long story short, he helped me drop my property taxes when we did it right around $80,000, which I'm not saying it's going to happen for everybody here, but it's some very useful knowledge. He did this union hall that we're sitting in and dropped that 300,000. 300,000. Okay. So Mike's engaged to speak all around Texas. So man, I want to thank you for coming out. He's going tonight. He's probably going to go down to whatever city he's speaking in and come back, talk to us tomorrow morning, and then keep doing it. So the deadline to protest is the 16th.
Monday night.
All right, 16th. So if y'all do anything today, if y'all have one thing that y'all take away from today is to get the protest filed. Right. So that being said, Mike.
You able to hear me? I'm playing with Mike. I'm non-digital. I'm 62 years old. So you have to bear with me if I stumble with technology, but this is a blessing because as president of the Christian Chamber of Texas, we were able to afford some things that we didn't have before. So get this in my pocket and we'll get going. Actually, it's not going to take an hour and a half. We're going to get through this in about 40 minutes. And then we'll see if we need an hour and a half to answer each one of your individual questions. But a little bit of background on how this started. 6 years ago, I ran against, well, it doesn't know who I ran against. I ran for tax collector. And I had a bright idea. I said, I'm a CPA, which for those of you who don't know, it stands for cow parking attendant. Because if you have enough cattle, you don't pay as much taxes on your ranch. But I ran tax collector, and I said, you know, if I put on a seminar, a CPA, tax guy, I'm going to win this race. But of course, I was on the red side of the ballot. No, I'm joking. But I did not win. But 300 people showed up, and at the same time, the treasurer for the firefighters, I think a year later, called me and said, "Hey, I understand you know something about property taxes. Maybe you can help with our hall." And I'll tell you that story a little later, because it's worth empowering you as individuals. But we were able to lower the value on the hall, and it just kind of rolled up. I mean, 300 people wanted to hear this. They didn't want me to be the tax collector, but they wanted to hear what we had to say. And we kept learning and learning. And when 300 people show up, a few people call and say, "Hey, can I hire you?" And the answer is not really, not likely. I don't have any employees. I don't pay rent on the building that I manage. That's been through a fire. So bless every one of you, because I've been there. And so I said, but I'll help you. You know, we're president and we're on the board of the Christian Chamber. This is an outreach. I mean, you love your neighbors, you love yourself, right? And so I said, I'll go down there in some cases. So we started going down there and hanging out and watching how it worked. And then the next thing I knew, well, the COVID hit. And Constable Vodrovich, you may recognize that name from Precinct 3, he hosted a seminar and 1,000 people signed up. This was a month before COVID. And clearly they weren't signing up to hear me talk, they wanted to hear about the message. And then COVID hit and we couldn't have the event. And I got a little depressed. And then God had a sense of humor, because the blessing in disguise of COVID was that the Attorney General said, "Well, wait a minute. Just because you don't want people to come into the County Appraisal District office doesn't mean they're not entitled to a hearing. That means you can do it by phone or by Zoom." I couldn't spell Zoom back then. Now I can spell Zoom. And so that empowered me to realize, whoa, wait, this isn't a Bexar County issue. This is the same problem in El Paso. It's the same problem in Galveston. So it's state law that we're going to be talking about with a little bit of Bexar County flavor, because this is our home. This is where I'm born and raised. So again, thank these guys. Please remember these guys, because they're professionals. They're not just loan officers and real estate agents, because I even had to get the course approved for continuing education credit for realtors, because the St. John Board of Realtors, of which I'm a member, I'm a licensed real estate broker, but I primarily focus in commercial. They across the street took me to lunch and couldn't figure out to do what we're doing today. So that Jamin and Michael could say, wait a minute, this is good stuff. It's chips and salsa, right? Yo soy mexicano, pero yo no hablo español. So, I'm bicultural, I take the shuck off the tamale, but I speak 3 languages. I speak English, real estate, and taxes. So a little bit of my background, you're gonna get, oh, that's the other thing. So there's no sales pitch. You relax. Some of you got your notes. You're gonna get the slides. If you give us the email address, or if we forget somehow, Michael or Jamie and I drop it, email us, we'll send it to you. Okay, are we good? Because I wanna make sure that this is we can lower your anxiety. My father died of a stroke when I was 14. So I don't want you to have any anxiety over anything, that we're gonna have some fun the next 30, 45 minutes. And it's important that I tell you that he died because I was supposed to, I was supposed to be a priest. I was in the seminary. And he dies, and I made a deal with God. I said, if I can get out of paying room and board and go to a Central Catholic high school, I guess that's God's way of saying I don't have to be a priest. And God gave me a scholarship. For Central Catholic did. And I graduated with the dumbest class Central Catholic ever had. Anybody familiar with Central Catholic? Show of hands. All right. Well, I know I graduated with the dumbest class because I was at the top of the class. And I was at that 3 years. So it's not a real smart group. But I talk quickly, and I'll answer your questions. Not that I want you to hold them all on, but there's a good chance that even if you've got a PhD and you're studying for law, that the next slide is the answer to your first question. But after that, understand, we're not going anywhere. I don't have a lunch appointment. So if somebody has something private you want to talk about, come on up afterwards. But for the most part, any question you have is for the benefit of everybody. So I'm a CPA that after Central Catholic, I went to St. Mary's University, became a rattler, and I got a degree in accounting in 3 years. From there, I went to UTSA and got a master's in tax. And what's significant about UTSA these days, right? They have a great football team. Did you know that the Conference USA Championship game was sponsored by a property tax protest company? That's ridiculous, right? That there's an industry just in that. I don't know that, there's an industry so big that, that protects the firefighters that would sponsor the Conference USA Championship. But I tell you that because I have a lot of disdain for the system that's broken and we have to overcome. So I'm a real estate broker, I'm a consultant, and as I said before, I'm a cow parking attendant. And I know there's an agricultural exemption if some of y'all are buying some land out in the country, we can talk about that. I'm a car parking attendant when it comes to real estate, and I'm a certified public accountant. So, most importantly, I like to say I'm identified with Christ as my Lord and Savior. But I've been in mosques and I've been in temples, and I've gotten a bigger applause there because I tell them, unless your Muslim property tax is lower than my Christian property tax, we got the same problem. And then they introduced me to the Sikhs. So this transcends religious identity, it transcends private schooling, it transcends firefighters to police. So Poe should be here. Tell all your Poe friends, hey, you guys are behind the times. But Jesus gave us scriptural authority. He said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and God what is God's. And Caesar's dead. And no Bible or sacred text I've read has substituted Governor Abbott as king. So the governor and the legislature are responsible in part through local county appraisal districts for what we're having to endure. But if that isn't your motivation, then here's legislative authority. It's called the Texas Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And the sixth right is to contest a decision. And that's what, so you're empowered. Forget the religious reference, okay? I got it. I know some of us are struggling with that. I certainly did. Still do sometimes. But the governor will tell you, you've got the right, because we have the Texas Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Most of us didn't know it existed. I didn't until I became a property tax geek. And in this seminar, we're going to talk about your right to protest, your right to the government's evidence, a best presentation strategy that will kind of rival what Michael went through. But it's somebody that was sitting in the crowd just like you that said, I think I got what you said. Let me see if this is what you're talking about. We're going to give that to you. So you can use that as a guide. And then we're going to explain your right to appeal with Carl and Leslie. Short-term memory at my age, it's going. But Carl and Leslie, they went to a formal hearing. And but unlike Michael, they didn't necessarily go to arbitration. We want you to be aware of your right to appeal the local county's ruling. Very few people know that in Atascosa, there's 40,000 accounts. there was only 2 arbitrations. Even though we got the protests up from 2,500 to 7,500 by having seminars like this. And last but not least, besides knowing your right to protest, we're going to explain to you your right to petition if you think that I'm worth supporting, trying to get me on the ballot to be the comptroller. Who's cramming down property value studies of the chief appraiser's throats, and which is causing the values to rise in part. And always, y'all are the experts. Y'all are better than anybody else. You know how to vote. So, but the conclusion for authority is that this judge said tax avoidance is not tax evasion. All right? So we're not going to teach anything unethical. We're not going to teach anything the governor wouldn't tell you, and we're not going to teach anything that is fraudulent. So, while you may not be able to see this very well, it's a schedule. And the schedule is this: January 1st is the effective date. We're not talking about what Jamie can sell your home for next week. We're talking about what could he have sold it for on January 1st. So it's really important to note that. Make a mental note. I'm going to be more emphatic. And then around early April, you start getting notices of value. We're going to go through that love letter you got from the county. And then May 16th in Barrett County is the last day you can say, well, wait a minute, hold on, time out. I want to talk about this. And that's, if you get nothing else out of this, you need to know how to file that notice of protest in front of you, perhaps on the backside of the notice of value, and we'll walk you through that. And if you get nothing else, if your attention span wavers after that, you're good. You're good. But we want to make sure you know how to file it, because you're going to walk out of here, you're going to tell some of your buddies, you're going to tell some of your neighbors, you're going to tell some of the family and friends, hey, this is an opportunity for me to at least get in the game. So, May 16th is the deadline. You don't have to file your protest, but I prefer that you email your protest. See the distinction? Email means take that form and send it to CS, customer service at bcat.org if you're in Barrett County. I know some of you might be in Coal Mountain, other counties, and you may have to help me help you by calling and saying, hey, how can I get this to you? Worst case is, spend $2 or $3 and do it by certified mail. But have evidence that you filed the notice to protest. Okay? Not all the evidence, not the whole case, just the notice to protest. So you can email your protest to CS at bcat.org. CS stands for customer service. They will immediately, it's almost, I think it's artificial, they'll immediately say, it's been received, we'll get back to you. Okay? Step 1. January 1st is the effective date. So I know everybody's a little bit frustrated with the world saying everything's going up in Texas, and our property values are going up, and you want to sell your home because we have a shortage of inventory. Well, if you don't want to sell your home, you might have reasons that you would have to get it ready even if you wanted to sell it. So if like your car's out there, most of us didn't drive in the vehicle, that we go to the dealer and trade it in. We tune it up, clean it up, fix it up, and then we have the best value. So, pardon the analogy or the pun here, but if your house burned down on New Year's Eve, then what would we be talking about? Land and slab, right? I mean, assuming it was the worst case fire. But if your house flooded like the victims in Houston in March, they're still talking about a fully functioning house as of January 1st. So it cuts both ways. Real important to note that. Michael and I endured that. I had to help him through that. Okay, because the culture is, well, have you fixed it yet? That's not relevant. I don't know if you know the story. I mean, he's loving father, he takes the kid to a little league game, and the boy left, I think, the faucet on upstairs, and something went wrong with the drain, and it overflowed. He comes back to a flooded house. That was the beginning of some of the property conditions that we had to point out. But the repairs didn't get done before January 1st because he had to deal with insurance adjusters during COVID, so on and so forth. We won't get into all his details. But I kept reiterating with him, through him, and to the people that he was protesting, January 1st. I don't care if he's repaired it, not repaired it. What was the condition of the home January 1st? That's what bonded us, even though, again, as he said, and I really do appreciate his honesty that he's able to, Greg Barkhouse, I know some of y'all know of him. He said if I had done what I told him to do, and that was organize what we're doing right now, he said I'd be mayor right now. But he didn't listen. And I was like, at least Carson listens. because we got it down 300,000 on this property. So we're all coming and learning together, but this is an important date, January 1st, okay? Now you've got not a bill, not a statement, don't pay notice, correct? You got this value, and it looks something like this. You can't see it, and you don't need to see this detail, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times it says don't pay. Okay, and if it says don't pay, what do? Well, we throw it aside. It's not our priority. We want to get to our bills and get back to life. So typically, 80% of Bexar County residents do not protest their value. So 4 out of 5 of your friends and neighbors don't protest. Keep that in mind as it plays into the culture of this whole system. But the form that you got on the back side that we're going to now blow up into 3 slides. Okay, if you got that, it's on the back side of that notice of value. You saw the notice of value, you said, oh, look, my value went up. You flip it over, and then this is what you're going to see. Notice of protest. And if y'all are having trouble, I don't mind talking in the dark. I just, we can turn down the light if that will help, because I'm noticing it. But this form says, and it's the only county in the state that says, don't forget to check the box to request the evidence. In red, we can thank Mr. Anastasia for that. Chief Appraiser. He and I are first in basic. We were both in Michael. No, actually, it's because it's taught me quite a bit. Because he's fed up with the system too. But he gets paid to administer it. The second part, the middle section, for most of you, it's already got your name and your address. What it doesn't have is a phone number or an email address. And they're not trying to get your data to sell it or to hack it, but thanks to COVID, you heard me right, thanks to COVID, since we don't have to go down there, and they had to accommodate telephone hearings, and they had to accommodate Zoom hearings, you don't have to go down there anymore either. In fact, they prefer you not to come down there. And I prefer you not to go down there because then you can make it convenient to your schedule, right? I pulled over on the side of the road and walked through an arbitration because I got it on my computer, got it on the phone. Okay, let's go. So it's more efficient, but it's more personal if it's by phone or by Zoom than if it's just an e-file portal. Some of y'all might be a little shy, and well, I'm just going to e-file my protest, and I'll put the data into the portal. Hey, if that's how you want to roll, that's
Says the only one in the state that has it.
But I don't know a single fireman I wouldn't be sympathetic to if I was sitting on a panel and they know you're a fireman. You can kind of bleed that into the conversation. Because you can't say you're an appraiser. I can't say I'm an appraiser. But we're going to get to that. But so you might want to add your phone number, your email address, and your reason for protest is the first box on the upper left-hand corner. And it says, incorrect appraisal of market value and or unequally compared to other properties. What does that mean? That means either that property, as it is, on January 1st, could not have been sold for the value that they're saying that they could sell it for, or you're saying, my property is valued higher than my neighbor's. Now, typically, the property's valued at or lower than your neighbor's, and what did I tell you earlier? 80% of your neighbors didn't protest. So if they don't protest, then don't compare me to them. Silence is an affirmation, you're just ignorant sometimes. Okay? And ignorance isn't stupidity, it's just not having knowledge. So you check the first box, and you're good. Now you may have some other reasons, they give you a bunch of them. 99% of the time, the other reasons are not relevant to the bottom line of we're arguing value. But if you want to make sure, obviously, that you get your exemptions. We'll talk about that briefly because it varies. But you check that first box, and then you go to section, I'm sorry that this is hard to read, but if you're looking at your form, section 4, it asks, provide facts that might help your case. And I say, you don't start negotiating against yourself. You don't have to give many facts. I put not at this time. No, thank you. Appreciate it. Not at this time. And then over to the right, it says indicate how you wish to appear. I have a face for radio, but you might think, I would say every one of you are pleasant enough to put your face out there. Do it by Zoom. But if you're not comfortable with the whole Zoom technology, you're afraid Japanese or Chinese are listening, whatever your issues are, I support you. Do it by phone. Let them hear you. It's not just a property, it's a person. And you're going in front of a panel, like a jury. And I want them to be sympathetic to making any adjustment that they might favor you because they met you, so to speak. So you check remotely by Zoom or telephone conference. And my mother failed the first grade because she couldn't speak English. That's why I'm very articulate in English. But if Spanish is your preferable language, or let's say a relative of yours is, you can check Spanish. But I'd say, for the most part, we're going to indicate we want to speak in English. And then it asks, what is your opinion of property value? And it literally says optional. Well, if it's optional, then the answer is I'm not going to answer the question. Or if you do what Fred advises the seminar attendees, he said, put $1. I mean, he's got a sense of humor about it. I just kind of lay low. It's like, hey, I don't know yet. That's why we're here. And then the red box. This is the most important one. And we're the only county in the state where we put a red box. It says evidence requested. Check that box. Check the box. You've been charged with a crime. Think of it as you're a criminal. You own a property, went up in value. You say, what would happen if they pulled show me the evidence that I was speeding. Right? So it's the same thing. We have the right to the evidence that the government has put together. It's that red box that says evidence requested right next to it. What is your value? Leave that fine, but check the red box. Now, section 5. Section 5, really important, because it asks, if your property value is more than $52 million or more, then you need to answer these questions. Now, does anybody need to answer those questions? Do I need to stop right now? If anybody needs to answer those questions. Anybody? No? Okay, Warren Buffett's not here today. So, skip section 5, it doesn't apply. If you don't have $52 million on one of your properties, go to section 6 and check property owner, print your name, sign it, date it, and now we go back to sending it by email. That's it. We can stop right now. You're done. You're done. If that's all you did today, if I've lost your attention because I haven't been animated enough, you're good. You're in the game. You've asked for the reservation at the restaurant, and now you have gotten the menu, and then when you get the menu, we'll decide if we're going to eat. Right? We'll decide, let me run it by these two guys up here, and maybe they can look at the values, maybe they can give me some more data. You know your house, they might know the market. Together we can dispute what the government's telling you, if it applies. But that's how we get to step 1. That's all we have to do before next Tuesday night. I don't know how to say it more concisely, because I got to say it to as many people across the state of Texas as possible. So, May 16th is the deadline. If you email it on the night of the 16th, they're going to give you an immediate response and you're in the game. So let's talk about past that. How did they come up with these numbers? Mike, don't they know everything about them? I mean, didn't they at least fly a drone over my house? Right? The government wouldn't make a mistake. I mean, the government is all knowing and all powerful and has all access. No, they don't. They didn't come into your home. They probably didn't go to your neighborhood. In Wilson County, by way of example, or Atascosa, they have 8 appraisers for 40,000 accounts. 8 appraisers for 40,000. That means there's 5,000 accounts per appraiser.